if you have $1,000 to spend on a gaming PC, I will show you, in my opinion, the best PC build that you can get right now for the price. Now, in my opinion, this is the best gaming system for 1440p and 4K under $1,000, and I will show you two different systems, one that's a bit above $1,000, but I highly recommend buying that one. Anyway, I still have one that's just under $1,000 in case you don't want to go above that budget. I will also explain each component as simple as possible. That way, if you're new to gaming PCs and you don't understand anything about components, you are able to understand at least what these PCs are capable of running. You will have the links to all of the PC components down below in the video description. That being said, let's start. So with the first system, I'm going to show you the $1,000 PC. This one has the AMD Ryzen 5 5600. This is a great budget CPU, 6 cores, 12 threads, and honestly, it impresses me how good this CPU is for the price, for only $130. If you don't know anything about computers, for a gaming system, we need to prioritize our GPU or graphics card, however you want to call it, to get the best performance possible, and we need a CPU that will not bottleneck our GPU. In this case, the Ryzen 5 5600 is a great pair for our GPU, which I will talk about later on. For the CPU cooler, we have the Thermalright Assassin X120. This is a $20 CPU cooler. I want to clarify, this is not necessary, so if you want to save around $20 extra, I recommend you not putting any aftermarket CPU cooler and sticking to the stock one from AMD. Now, if you buy this cooler, you get a more quiet experience and you also get better thermals. So getting this cooler is not useless, but it's also not a must. So if you really want to save money, then it's not necessary. For the motherboard, we have the Gigabyte B550M Aorus Elite Micro ATX motherboard. This one is going for $100, and honestly, it's a great motherboard. There's nothing too crazy about it, but for the price of $100, you're getting enough for gaming. And trust me, we do not need any higher end motherboard for this price because we need the money to buy a better GPU. Then for the memory kit, we have the Team Group T-Crate Expert 32 gigs of RAM kit, 2x16 of DDR4 at 3200 MHz. Now 16 gigs will be enough for gaming, so once again, if you're trying to save money here, you can take out the cooler and get 16 gigs of RAM instead of 32, and you will be saving around $20 or so once again. But having 32 gigs of RAM is a nice to have, especially if you're thinking of content creation or streaming. Now, I want to clarify, with 16 gigs you can still do streaming and content creation, but with 32 gigs of RAM you will have a better experience when talking about those tasks. Then for the storage, we have the MSI M461 1TB of Gen 4 SSD going for $40. Honestly, you can get a cheap Gen 3 SSD, it will work just fine as well, but the price is really similar, and I think this 1TB Gen 4 SSD is gonna get the job done not only for gaming but also for content creation. If you ever need more than 1TB because maybe you need to download more games, then you can always upgrade the SSD because you have an extra slot on the motherboard. Then for the graphics card, and the most important part on this system, we have the RX 6800 XT going for $520. This graphics card has 16 gigs of VRAM, which, if you don't know anything about components, right now 16 gigs of VRAM is more than enough for any resolution, 4K, 1440p or 1080p. However, I would recommend this graphics card for high FPS 1440p gaming, so if you're searching for a 1440p monitor, this is the perfect PC for you, since you can buy a 240Hz 1440p one with no issues, and you will be able to take advantage of esports titles and play at above 240 FPS on average. I'm talking about games like CSGO, Valorant, or even Warzone, depending on the settings. Now, even if you want to play high demanding video games at 1440p like Flight Simulator or maybe Cyberpunk 2077, you will be able to run these games on high to ultra settings, 60 plus FPS on average, which is insane for the amount of money that you're spending on this whole system. And if you want to play at 4K, you will be getting a 60 plus FPS on average experience in most titles, depending on the settings. For 1440p and 4K, this PC is ideal. Now, if you want to play at 1080p, you can save up some money. I think this one is an overkill and I wouldn't recommend it, since you will be wasting your money. But if you have a 1080p monitor and you decide to go with this one because maybe you want even higher FPS, which trust me are not necessary, then I do recommend you upgrading the monitor down the line when you get more money, or whenever you want to switch to a 1440p or a 4K one. Then for the case, we have the BitFenix Nova Mesh Micro ATX RGB mini tower case. This one has 3 RGB pre-installed fans, which is huge considering it's only $60, and it has a front mesh panel, so the airflow overall for this system is going to be really decent and you will have no issues with overheating. And last but not least, the power supply, we have the Thermaltake Smart VX1 750 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. This is not the best power supply out there, but honestly, the power supply market is really expensive at the moment. So for 80 bucks, you're getting a really decent one. Your PC will not explode, which is all that we need. And it's C-tier rated. But I'm not really concerned about this PSU being C-tier rated. Now, if you want a higher quality PSU, you're looking to spend around $20 extra for an A-tier rated power supply, and you will have that alternative in the video description. Now for the other system, and I recommend you buying this one more, we have the system for 1,040 bucks. Yes, you're spending $40 extra, but you're getting the Ryzen 7 5700X, which is a better pair than the Ryzen 5 5600 with the RX 6800 XT. And yes, I have downgraded the RAM for 16 gigs of RAM because otherwise the price was going to be even higher. But if you want to stick to 32 gigs and spend around 20 extra bucks, feel free to do so. You will get actually a better experience. But even if you get 16 gigs of RAM, you're getting a much better CPU. And let's say down the line you want to upgrade to this CPU from the Ryzen 5 5600. In that case, you will need to spend around $200 extra for the upgrade. Now, let's say you decide to spend the extra 40 bucks right now, and down the line you want to upgrade the memory kit to 32 gigs of RAM, you will be spending around $40. So right now you spend 1,040, and down the line you spend around another 40 bucks or so. Or if you want the same kit, you're going to be spending $30 extra. So at the end, you will be spending around $70 worth of upgrades down the line. And if you decide to go with the other one and upgrade the CPU down the line, you will be spending at least $200 worth of upgrades. And that's why I recommend you spending the extra right now, because down the line, if you decide to upgrade the RAM, you get kind of a discount. But of course, that's only if you decide to upgrade down the line. If you know you will be not upgrading anything on this system, you can go with the $1,000 one and save up some money. However, just so you know, with the Ryzen 7 5700X, you will be getting better gaming performance and also content creation performance. Now, let's say you don't want to build it yourself because perhaps you're scared to build it yourself, or maybe you don't have the time. You may have your reasons why you may want a Prebuilt PC. That being said, you will have my video about the best Prebuilt PCs of the month in the top right of the screen. I highly recommend you watching that one. You have a PC for every budget, so even if you have 1,000 or 2,000, or maybe you have $700, you will have a PC that will perform great for the price, and that's why I recommend you watching that video instead. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I will try to reply as fast as possible. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.